All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one podcast on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more and more and more, what we do every single day. It's a new episode every single day. So whenever you're jumping on, wherever you're jumping on, glad to have you here. To my regular listeners, you already know how we get down over here, whatever the challenge is, whatever the obstacle is, whatever is in the way of your success, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone, all the way from Bulgaria today. All right, we got Mr. Petar Krastev, also known as Coach PK, who is about to light this entire microphone up. I know regular consumers are used to that, but if you're first time listening here, whenever it's me and a guy that has a background in fitness, it's extra the exclamation point, extra the movement, extra the motivation. So all that being said, Petar, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks to for having me, Aswant. I'm honored to be here, and hopefully we can discuss some things that will inspire people and maybe teach them some lessons. I'm here to leave value, so thanks for that.
And I'm going to read this directly from your bio, okay? 22 years old, you left your home country with 10 euros, all right? Living on the
Yeah.
streets and working in grueling jobs, spending 18 months locked up in a garage without a basic amenities. And then 2019, you get into how you were able to find Christ. You were able to find the Lord.
hmm
There's so many pieces of your story that I think is so incredibly inspiring that I want to give you the microphone for a second to kind of speak on those times a little bit, your come up story, and some of the things that you have actually had to live through before you became Coach P, or Coach PK, excuse me, Coach PK, that
hmm
guy that's helping people get their goals, that guy that seems to have it all together. Because a lot of people see that finished product, but man, let me tell you, when it comes to actually what you had to do, I know that that's something that a lot of people can't live through. So, walk us through that journey a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? The like a month ago, I had the idea, let's count all the businesses that I've tried and I stopped or failed or whatever the reason was, they didn't just live to till today.
Yeah.
And I put everything on the list. It was nine businesses that I started, I made money with, and I failed.
Mhm.
Some of them I stopped because I had to, some of them just I decided to quit. But that was the over the span of 10 years of my life. So since 2020, I will lie here, but since I was 18 years old, right? That's when I decided to commit to entrepreneurship. I listened to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is one of those books
Ding,
that
ding, ding,
has
ding, ding, ding. I gotta pause you there because aside from my book, that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, has been mentioned the most on this show. All right, this is
I was gonna say that.
over
Yeah,
1,000 episodes in. Rich Dad Poor Dad has been mentioned as frequently as my own book. So I'm telling you right now, Robert Kiyosaki again. I actually just had a guest on who knew Robert Kiyosaki before he had the book. Robert Kiyosaki, if you're listening, this is an open invitation, man. We gotta get you on
yeah.
and we gotta chop it up because I mean it's almost like you're already on the show. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just think it's great that that book was part of your come up story because it was the same for me as well. I love
It's
it.
the part of so many people's stories, and I've also spoken to hundreds of people about how they started. And you hear that book, like that book
Oh,
goes together with another book. There's two books that, in my opinion, have started more entrepreneurs in the world than anything else. Those is the Rich Dad Poor Dad and Napoleon Hill.
get rich,
How what
how
was
to
it?
get influence people,
Something about get
how to
how
influence
to
people.
get rich,
Yeah,
something like that.
and influence people. I think it
Yeah, whatever. So the Rich Dad Poor Dad takes the first place
is.
by far, in my opinion, as well. And that book started me and taught me a very important lesson about taking risks whilst you're young. And that was the main message I got out of the book, together with what actives and passives are, a little bit about the money. But I took this message very sincerely, very seriously. Like, I have to make mistakes. And I went head on with my life to make mistakes.
Right.
And I did everything opposite to what parents were teaching me. And that's what made all this chaos in my life. Starting businesses, failing. In 2014, had to kind of escape my country because I was in a seriously bad relationship. and I had to sort out so many issues. So my personal life was a mess, like three times
Mhm.
mess. Like there's no word to explain what mess it is unless I really dive into the details.
Right.
But I don't want to waste time on that. The point is, it was very, very bad, and I had to escape. And going to England was the only opportunity that opened up, and that was for a car wash.
Mm.
A car wash that I was supposed to pay rent in and get profits out of what's left, and also pay rent to live in the owner's house. But
Mm.
that car wash was already uh, facing a bankruptcy, very, very close to it. And I go there, I'm paying rent, and I'm not washing any cars. There's no cars coming.
Now you were just
And
going there to work there, or were you just going? Did you run the business? But you just
no,
decided
no, 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 I just go to work there,
just yeah.
like in a car wash for like close, actually practically nothing. I was owning the car wash owner money by
You
the end
had
of
to
the
pay.
first week.
You had to pay rent, yeah.
And quickly escaped, went to another car wash where I was like making 30 pounds a day, working kind of a modern slavery kind of place, 12 hours a day, very brutal environment, very cold. And when I escaped from there, like to find a new job, they warned me that next time you do that, you'll be kicked out on the streets. And next time was very soon. I was called for a trial at Subway to make sandwiches, and
Hmm.
I escaped from there. And the night I come back, luckily, the subway guy, he liked me. He said he'll take me on. I was barely speaking English, by the way, but he decided to take me on. I'm very grateful for that.
Hmm.
And I was kicked on the streets. That was a midwinter, just like a month and a half, two after I landed in the UK. I found myself on the streets, barely any clothes, no money.
Oh my God.
And
So
that's
just so
how
we're
it all
clear now,
started.
you're living on the like benches and you're just, figuring out.
Oh, not even benches because it was so cold. So 2 nights or 3 nights I spent completely on the streets, and I had to actually walk all night so I don't freeze to death
Oh
because I
my
didn't have enough clothes. It was
God.
that cold. Right? If I stop, I might not wake up. So I just decided to just keep walking, right? It helped. And from there, there was a woman who gave me a place to stay a little, and eventually I managed to come up with the idea that was like a backup emergency plan idea that I had back in the day to go live in a garage. And I found a garage, a local garage. But when I say garage, people think I lived in somebody's house garage in some nice garage, right? So it's like a room. No,
That's what
that
I
wasn't the
understood.
case, right? That wasn't the case. We're talking about these brick built garages outside, like separate buildings with a metal door, with metal on the roof. And you go inside, it's only bricks, spiders, and rats, and all this kind of stuff. And the garage got flooded on the night one of me being in there.
Oh
This is
my,
the type of garage that you book online and you don't meet the owner. They send you a code, you go and unlock it, and you go inside. You're not allowed to live there. Nobody was supposed to find me. So I ended up spending there like 18 months of my life.
Jesus.
During that period, I had to send money back to my girlfriends for some issues, and very, very tough. And all that time, I was working from one job to another job, two jobs, three jobs. Very hard, very hard. And this was the period of my life which really was breaking me down. It was killing what I was back then.
Yeah.
I used to believe I know it all. I used to believe I can figure it out. I was the hardest working guy. I literally was. In Subway, I became the manager of the newest and the best Subway in the country 3 months after going in there.
Yeah.
Then I moved to another place in Amazon, doing deliveries for Amazon. Became the highest paid driver in the company in that I was working for in the whole country.
Hmm.
I was a supervisor within 3 months again. All that because I was working harder than any human being can practically work. There was nobody catching me. I was just doing it because I had to grind my ass off to escape, and it wasn't working. I
Mhm.
broke up, got out of my relationship, 4 years after, like 3 years in the UK. I broke out from the relationship, and I started the second another business with a friend, and that business started taking off in 2 years' time, but he decided to change his mind, and I was left alone with that business, which I could not run on my own, and that failed. And I was now 28 years old, again from s- square one, starting, having absolutely nothing. I was still working at Amazon, had no money. I couldn't go back home. It was miserable as fuck.
Hmm.
And I spent 6 months of my life figuring out what my next move will be. And I studied all the successful people,
Hmm.
all those who actually came up from nothing, stayed up. They're always successful. They they don't just disappear, but they just stay on top. And they all had these two traits in common, which I actually didn't have. And these two traits were they loved what they did and they also never quit. And as I shared my story so far, I always quit for some reason. 9 businesses, and sometimes it wasn't my fault, but I decided to take responsibility for it because I decided to partner with that guy knowing that we can fail. So moving forward, I decided to not partner with anyone, to do something that I would just never quit again. And I had to do something that I can potentially love, which I didn't know what it will be, but I knew that during these tough periods when I was going to the gym to just to shower because that's where I was showering in the garage, I know that that was making me stronger. That was giving me something back. Out of anything that I've done in my life, the gym, going to the gym is the one thing that until then was always paying off. There was not a single time I go to the gym and that takes away from me, even if I get injured. It just gives me.
Right.
It gives me. So I decided to love training and I committed my life to training.
Well,
And
of all,
yeah.
I have to commend you for your courage. You know, as someone that has spent a significant amount of time in my life before, I've lived out of a car. I know it was incredibly difficult. Live out of a car, you go shower at the gym, and then you go about your business. You know, those years, and what I've learned from having spent that time and living through, not obviously not as bad as being outside. I'm in Florida, but what I've learned is it humbles you and it makes you
Hmm.
appreciate the little things that a lot of people that take for granted. There's so
Big
much
time.
perspective it gives you. There's so much it gives you in regards to how much you actually get out of your day and how much work you actually put in. And you said the right word. You were working your tail off. As I mean, and a lot of people that I won't say a lot of people, but I know I can speak for myself when I was doing that. I was working my tail off, breaking barriers, moving up, things of that nature. But the thing about it is, you said the right word. Eventually, you got to figure out something that you love because when you're willing to put in the work, you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing what you love. All right. If you are willing
Hmm.
to put in the work, it's all your obligation to figure out what it is you love because you're going to keep going. That love for whatever it is you're going to do. And you spoke on a lot of great men, whether it is Napoleon Hill, whether it is Robert Kiyosaki. You're right. The thing they have in common, they love what they do and they love it to the point where it doesn't matter where the hell they're living. It doesn't matter what's going on. They're going to do it
Precisely.
regardless. They're going to do it regardless. All right.
That's
As you, uh,
precisely.
as you get into this fitness journey, and this is an industry I'm incredibly familiar with, I know that that walk of faith with Jesus and that fitness journey, the ones that are really in it, there's a parallel with that. There's a parallel
Mm.
with developing a walk of faith and really doing things the Lord's way and developing a healthier lifestyle. So, can you walk us through kind of how those two things happened for you as you decided, okay,
Yeah.
my thing, this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make sure too, I'm doing it the Lord's way and I'm doing it the right way.
Yeah. Well, what you said is 100% completely true, and I'll finish with that. There is a
Okay.
parallel with how I do business too.
Mhm.
The same way, like the way you grow and develop a business, the same the way you grow and develop your body, the way you grow and develop your faith. But the faith is different though. The faith is something that actually that is the most powerful part of my life, the most important thing in my life right now. And by that time until the end of my last story, I
Mhm.
didn't know God. And you mentioned something that period humbles you down a lot.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does.
It does humble you as fuck.
Right. You appreciate the
But
roof, you appreciate all the little things, boy. I'm telling
right,
you, man. And everyone
right.
can't live, everyone has not done it, but they complain. I'm telling you, until you've lived through that, you have not
Yeah,
seen it. I'm gonna just tell you
Yeah,
straight up.
100%. So I got really humbled myself,
Right.
right? I got to the point where, like a few months after my commitment to fitness, I recognized that I'm just not good enough, not as much as I thought.
Mhm.
Like fitness, I wasn't an athlete. I had no prior knowledge about fitness, about sports, anything. I had no friends or no family members who were some sort of something in that area. So I was absolutely average guy with a very bad body shape. You can actually see my photos are online because I use them all the time. Um, I was nothing. And then again, I was faced again that big thing. I'm gonna be like a fitness what? I didn't even know I'm gonna be a coach or a trainer, but I knew I'm gonna be doing that for the rest of my life, and it seemed almost impossible. It made me feel like all my methods of surviving and grinding was
Mhm.
leading to nothing. That was 28 years of my life. I spent working harder than anyone I knew, anyone I ever met. Anyone I told my story by until that time was like, I would never do that. Like, people were acting like I'm crazy. And it started hitting me that I'm not good enough. And there was a barber, a new barber that I met, Mike, who started chatting about me, about God, and sharing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And we got into a conversation, and he explained some logical stuff to me and told me, if you want to find out who God is and really recognize, know Him, you gotta pray to Him
Mhm.
to forgive you and to reveal Himself. And he said, very importantly, make sure you pray in the name of Jesus. Very, very important. And I did it. I did it in the night after we met, sincerely prayed, and on the next day, met Jesus. My life's never been the same.
Right.
Everything changed. My 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 environment, my habits, everything changed. My bad habits, my bad thoughts, the things that I was feeling guilty about, I was forgiven and I was changed. I didn't want to do these bad things anymore.
Right.
I was set free in a way that I could never explain,
Right.
and that grew, and that faith still lives in me. That these miracles still coming, and now going going in life I live on the edge all the time,
Right.
on that edge where you stretch yourself a lot to chase these big goals. You don't know how you're going to achieve the next step. You have no idea where the money for the next challenge is going to come. You have no idea how things are going to happen. But I'm so fine-tuned, like with the purpose of what God has for me, what
Mhm.
He wants me to do,
Right.
that I just go and I know He's going to provide, and He does every single time. And that faith is like in front of everything that I do. Like in my relationships, in my business, in my training, it's like I just know He's leading me right
Right.
where He wants me to be.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you because one of the things when you really do develop that walk of faith and it's genuine, people feel it on you. You know, the folks who were around you, the folks that you're serving, whether it is a client, whether it's a family member or a friend, regardless, they start to see a security in your mindset, regardless of what's going to happen. So, as this is happening for you, how are your clients being served? Because I was just checking out before we started recording, I was checking out your website and I saw that you had you have those before and after shots to where you help them develop in their bodies and things like that. Can you walk us through a little bit about how you were able to get your first client and well not just your first client but how you were able to develop the reputation that you were able to develop, what the process were when you were getting established?
Yeah, well, it was many years of the making, and people don't even know how just a few clients kept me going for a very long time.
Right.
The first client I've got from these walks in the UK. I had a friend who had a business in constructions, and he had clients, and he was taking them out for walks in
I got
like the English walks, right, on
yeah,
Sundays
yeah.
in nature, and I go with them, and one of them decided to become my client. It was my first client, then his friends, and since then, I just did my best to serve. I was very blessed before that happened to actually gain a lot of knowledge and education from Clubhouse, from a lot of professionals. I started a community for health and fitness professionals, which was one of the best in the world at the time. So God blessed me a lot, gave me the knowledge, and after I gained the knowledge, I started just getting people from wherever I can. It wasn't like I created my Instagram and suddenly I started getting clients. No, or I didn't even work in the gym.
Yeah.
So it was just from wherever I can get access to some people. I was going to events, to walks, to through referrals for the first few years,
Right.
and just looking after these clients a lot, going out
Hmm.
the extra mile all the time. Like there wasn't a single client that I didn't attempt to deliver like way more than what they expected. I
Exactly.
was just making sure I give everything. And because of my commitment to
Hmm.
never quit and that kind of love to what I do,
Hmm.
which we mentioned earlier, I was able to go through these periods where I can't pay the bills, which was so many, by the way. Like
Right.
these long periods where the business is not growing and I feel stuck, but I just had that. I had faith, I had God on my side, and I also had my commitment to never quit.
Right.
Which, as you just said, if you are committed, if you love what you're doing, then even if you can't pay the bills, even if you're on the streets, you're still doing that thing. And
Exactly.
and that's how I grew up, just a lot of referrals.
Hmm.
Now
Now,
my marketing efforts are paying off a little bit more and so on. But yeah,
yeah,
a
well,
lot of
that's
hard
that's what I was
work.
gonna tell you because actually I remember during that time I was working at a gym. The gym's no longer in business. It was around 2020, the clubhouse times, and meeting certain people and trying to do events, especially fitness events, was a difficult time, especially out here, with COVID and all that stuff happening.
Mhm.
But you had mentioned too before we started recording that event because here's the thing about training. It's one of the reason a lot of folks don't make it is because you have to be there for every client and you have to be demonstrating the workout. You actually have to be there for the business to run. You mentioned that you also have a podcast now too. Is this something that
Mhm.
you started as a way of making it so maybe you're able to serve more people as opposed to just the
Yeah,
clients that you had? Can you walk us through like the process and what made you start your?
yeah, 100%. Well, what made me start the podcast is pure kind of business reasons. So far, I've been trying to very hard for years to build a business and social following on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And I face a huge problem. I'm just not an entertaining guy. These platforms are for short form entertainment only. You can be
Well,
educating, but you
entertainment,
gotta
yeah.
be
I mean, the
entertaining.
likes, and then not to cut you off, but the likes is really because people prefer to be entertained and not educated. That's,
Yeah,
I mean, the social media numbers, you are
you
1,000%
can,
right. That is one
you
thousand.
can mix them up. You can mix them up, and you'll see thousands of coaches tell you that you can mix them up, but it just doesn't work. It
Right.
doesn't work for me. I've seen people who that works for. I wasn't one of these guys. I burned out through my emotions and energy many times trying to figure it out, and it's still not working. I know that paid ads work on these platforms, but the organic wasn't working. And at the same time, I had a few videos that are long form, and I knew that when people come to me and they watch a video of me talking, they're like sold before I even jump on a call to
Mhm.
to to get them on the program. When that's how the business works. Practically, they see you somewhere, you have a chat, you book a call, and you discuss if you want to work together. And when they come directly from Instagram or something, they always like there's no connection. And I decided to shift into YouTube a lot. And before I start just YouTube, I decided to actually work on a podcast because it's a very good idea for me to put all my knowledge out there in a structured way so they can people can get some good value, spreads out to a lot of platforms, and I can also have my guests and so on. I just picked the podcast for a business reason, and it's paying off because I now enjoy what I do. I really love recording my podcast. It's called, by the way, Limitless Body and Mind. And anyone who wants to lose weight right now, that's the podcast because the first season I'm talking about weight loss, starting from point A to point Z, and it's coaching podcast. It's not about like what you would usually see if you type in Google or YouTube, like how to lose weight or how to do that and how to do this. You're usually gonna receive videos that will teach you a lot of things, give you lots of science, and a lot of it will be true. Not saying it won't be, but a lot of it won't teach you how to apply it. And the podcast is specifically for business leaders and people in business or some sort of executive positions with high responsibilities. And teaching them how to apply it makes it very different. And so now I get to express myself in that podcast. Love it. Much easier for me to record a long episode. I'm not trying to create hooks,
That's short, sweet.
some visual effects and stuff. I'm just on the camera, there, just chatting, and I can do that forever.
And that's time
And
consuming, like making sure every clip is right and putting the short.
absolutely, yeah, it's draining, energy consuming, time consuming. If it's not paying off, it's just a big headache. And the podcast, very easy for me to do. Lots of value. People love it. And so go subscribe to that podcast if you're not. Limitless Body and Mind. It's on every platform right now and on YouTube. So
Yeah, we'll.
it's
I'll include
lovely.
that in the show notes as well. But you sort of already mentioned this. If you had to kind of figure out what your vision is or explain to people what your goal is for the next couple of years, what would you say is next for your organization? What you're trying to do? What can you tell the people now about what already allowed to share in regards to what's next?
Yeah. Um, I think it can be summarized in that sentence of just get as big as possible.
Mhm.
I do have my goals. We have annual fitness retreats, which,
There we go. Cool.
yeah, we already have the next one scheduled. I want the community to grow. I
Yeah.
want my podcast to become very popular, and I'm working, making sure it's nothing like it, and I'm myself as well, so people can know me for who I am, and those who like me to connect with me, that which would be nice. Ideally, we just want to grow as much as possible, make the business more stable, rebuild my team in a better way, and yeah, man, it's just speaking is coming into some events. I already have a few companies that I can go to speak to, and maybe some more public appearances rather than just podcasts and online.
That's part of
And
it. Like what I've learned being in this now for what 5 years. Yeah, this started about 2020. Is you got to constantly be getting in front of people. You got to be constantly out there speaking. Personally, with
mhm.
folks if you want to grow and if you want to expand. So I'll make sure I include all of that in the show notes as well. So the what is the best way for people to get in contact with you though? I think you already mentioned it, but I'll let you tell it just in case.
Well, first thing first is definitely follow the podcast. Again, I'll say that it's a very great value for the time that you put in listening. And hopefully you like me as a personality. If you don't, then don't follow, don't worry. Uh,
Right.
But if you wanna chat with me, there's a option to chat with me on WhatsApp directly. Just go to my website, which is pk.coach. So www.pk.coach.
Sure.
And you can click on there and chat with me on WhatsApp directly. You can also apply for coaching and see if I approve you or not. Uh, but there's lots of value. Just yeah, go connect with me if you have questions, and I much appreciate your time here as well.
All right. So
It's uh,
yeah,
it's a
you're
great chat
you're kind of
also
breaking up
because
there.
there's so many things we have in common and we can discuss.
Yeah, you were breaking up there at the end.
Okay,
But
how long
are
time
you,
ago did I start breaking up at
are
the
you
end?
hearing me well now though? Because I'm going to close out the show in a second.
Yeah, I
Cool.
hear you well. So I was just saying
All right.
thanks a lot, and it
Well, yeah,
was
that's what
very
I'm
nice.
saying. So the thing is, though, this is how I close out all the shows, Peter. I want you to use your imagination a little bit and to pretend you are waking up in the cold, not even waking up, you're walking the whole night just to stay warm, just to stay relevant. I want you to pretend that that version of you is here in the Zoom room. Just give that young man some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
That version, the old version, like
The old you.
uh
You that's sleeping in garages and just man, it's a lot. So just tell him some words of encouragement and we'll officially close it out.
well, just um keep working on it being yourself and don't be so freaked out of what can happen and what could happen because life is much longer than you expect. And as long as you continue putting in the work every single day, that will be plenty enough to go to the other side and one day look at it and appreciate what you've done. So Yeah,
I'm a quote one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Tupac Shakur, who said, "Through every dark night, there's a bright day at the end." All right, and we'll officially close out with that.
it's true. Yeah.
Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.